The untold story of Socrates, the philosopher they feared. Athens, the birthplace of democracy, the city of great thinkers. But in the heart of its golden age, a man was sentenced to death, not for war, not for treason, but for asking too many questions. Why would a society built on wisdom and debate silence its greatest thinker? Was Socrates truly corrupting the youth, or was he uncovering truths the powerful wanted buried? This is the untold story of Socrates, the man who defied an empire with nothing but words. Socrates was not born into greatness. His father was a stonemason, his mother a midwife. No royal blood, no fortune, just a sharp mind and an unshakable curiosity. Unlike the great philosophers before him, Socrates never wrote a single word. Everything we know comes from his students Plato, Xenophon, and others who followed him like disciples. But he wasn't always a philosopher. He was a warrior first. During the Peloponnesian War, Socrates fought with fearless resolve, once saving a young soldier named Alcibiades in battle. He was no coward, not in war, and certainly not in thought. While others lectured in grand halls, Socrates walked barefoot through the streets, stopping anyone rich or poor, powerful or weak and questioning them. He became infamous for his method of debate, later called the Socratic method. He never gave answers. Instead, he asked relentless questions until the person arguing against him crumbled under the weight of their own contradictions. Imagine standing before a crowd, claiming to be an expert, only for an old man in tattered robes to make you realize you know nothing at all. This was Socrates' greatest strength, but it was also what made him dangerous. Athens, once powerful, had been defeated by Sparta. The city was wounded, paranoid, desperate for someone to blame. Socrates, with his sharp tongue and fearless questions, became an easy target. He openly criticized democracy, arguing that ruling a nation required wisdom, not popularity. Would you let the untrained steer a ship in a storm? He asked. Then why let the ignorant lead a city? These ideas made the ruling class nervous. To them, he wasn't just a thinker, he was a threat. His influence over the youth was undeniable. Young men like Plato, Alcibiades, and Critias admired him. But while Plato would go on to build philosophy, Alcibiades and Critias became infamous for their roles in Athenian politics and betrayal. Critias, one of Socrates' former students, led a brutal oligarchy known as the 30 Tyrants, executing enemies and dismantling democracy. When democracy was restored, people asked, did Socrates plant the seeds of rebellion? And so, the trial of Socrates was set. A trial not just of one man, but of philosophy itself. In 399 BC, Socrates stood before 501 jurors, accused of corrupting the youth and disrespecting the gods. Most men would have begged for mercy. Socrates did the opposite. He mocked his accusers, pointing out the absurdity of their claims. He even joked that instead of punishment, he deserved free meals for life as a reward for improving the minds of Athenians. The courtroom fell silent. Some laughed, but many saw his words as arrogance. The vote was close. 280 found him guilty, 221 not guilty. But it was enough. Now, the jury would decide his punishment. His friends pleaded with him to propose exile, to give the court a way to spare his life. But Socrates refused. To him, fleeing meant admitting he was wrong. The jury, angered by his defiance, sentenced him to death. Socrates' students and friends had a plan. They had bribed the guards. An escape was ready. But Socrates refused. A man must respect the laws of his city, even if they are unjust, he said. On his final day, he continued as he always had, questioning, debating, teaching. Even as the cup of hemlock was handed to him, he remained calm. His last words were cryptic. Crito, we owe a rooster to Asclepius. Some believe he meant death was a cure for life, as Asclepius was the god of healing. And so Socrates drank the poison, lay down and waited. His body grew cold, his breath slowed, and with his last moments, he left the world as he had lived unafraid. But did Socrates really lose? Or did he win in a way Athens never expected? His death did not silence his ideas. It made them immortal. Plato, his greatest student, wrote down his teachings, ensuring his words would echo through time. Aristotle, influenced by Plato, would shape science, politics, and ethics for centuries to come. Socrates' death was meant to erase him. Instead, it made him a legend. And today, we must ask ourselves, do we live in a world that encourages questions or punishes them? Do we challenge authority or blindly accept it. Because, as Socrates warned us long ago, an unexamined life is not worth living. Like the content, please do subscribe to Rise and Renew YouTube channel for more such inspiring stories.